I just want to welcome everybody to um, our event, Understanding the Oligarchy and How to Fight Back. We have two great speakers today, but before we begin, I just want to remind everybody that there are important elections in Arizona, California, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Virginia. And if you vote in any of those states or have friends or family that vote in those states and they're living abroad, please tell them to request their absentee ballot at votefromabroad.org, especially if you're if you're in California. Even though you most likely will get a ballot, please just go ahead and request your absentee ballot. This Proposition 50 is really important. Um, it's a temporary redistricting of California to counteract what was done by Trump and the Texas legislature in redistricting and trying to take away the Democratic districts there in Texas. So everybody request your absentee ballot and tell your friends and family to vote, vote, vote. And so with that, let's get on with the main part of our show. We have our first guest. We have two guests, but our first guest is Kina Bloom. She is a former store leader at Tesla. Kina walked away from tech and moved to the countryside in Spain. And there she has found her voice in speaking against the people who drive wealth inequality today. So I discovered her YouTube channel, Things Your Mom Should Have Told You, about 6 months ago. The algorithm put one of her videos in my feed and I was hooked from the beginning. And I want to show you a little excerpt from one of her videos, the first one I ever saw. And like I said, I was hooked, and I hope that you like it too.
Red Skull is the reason I left the US and moved to Spain. Back in the day, I gave way too many of my life hours to work for him. I worked strategically so that I could make sure I always exceeded expectations. I worked a lot because there was a lot of work to do. But when my time came to be cut, I was cut. And when it happened, it was my time and I was absolutely exhausted. I'd waited 5 years for this day to come. There are usually cuts when he wants more stocks or he needs to make numbers look good. I guess that's how companies are run right now. Instead of enhancing products and services to improve their numbers, they cut staff. He also seems to like doing a product unveiling when he wants to drive up interest in the stock. Remember the Gen 2 Roadster? It was supposed to come out in, I think it was 2020, and now they're saying something like 2026, while showing off a robot bartender. I swear, he's the genesis of Terminator and the Matrix franchises, realized. His robots and AI are for the Terminator part, and the Parasite class, they'll become the biofuel for the Matrix that'll run his robots. When I first started working for him, I thought he was a visionary. The company mission really aligned with my values. When the company mission changed, it aligned even more closely. How robots fit into that mission is far beyond me. He had me hooked for a very long time. I dismissed most negative news stories. I claimed they were biased. They didn't understand the mission. It took me a while to deprogram. Luckily, I deprogrammed before it was time for me to go. In the fall of 2017, that's the first time I saw cuts. One day I went into work. As usual, we had our morning team meeting, and by the end of the meeting, our store leader, he advised us that some of our team was no longer a part of our team. It was kind of like a magical door had opened and they were just ushered right through it. It took a long time for the rest of us to recover from that day. Everybody called it the Red Wedding, like the Game of Thrones. There were cuts everywhere. Team members who were super dedicated, who would do anything to drive the company mission forward, they were let go. The cuts were solely based on data. People were judged on their productivity. Their productivity was based on one number. That number did not tell the whole story. It turns out that people who were actually highly productive were fired. Due to non-disclosure agreements, I can't go into further detail. Realize that data can be read in different ways. It can tell multiple stories. It can be manipulated. It's kind of like using AI. If you ask AI a question in a certain way, you'll get an answer that will support the question that you're asking rather than the answer that is best suited to solve the problem. What helped us get past everything that happened was the Model 3 launch. It was really cool, the store that I worked at, because we got to see a lot of the cars before they appeared in public. We were one of the first stores to deliver the Model 3s as well. As with all the Tesla launches, the Model 3 had its own issues that everyone had to work through. This car was supposed to be the thing that drove Tesla into the big leagues, and it was. The problem at the time was that production wasn't hitting its targets. In the summer of 2018 is when there was a huge culture shift in the company.
If you want to watch the video yourself, which I'm 1,000% sure you do, you can check out Kina's channel. I'm going to put it in the chat, and everybody go up there and subscribe and like her videos. Kina, welcome.
Thank you, Angela. That's actually the first time I've watched one of my videos. I put them out, I film it, I edit it, and I forget about it. And I just live in the comments. So I was a little wild watching that. So thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Kina. I left Florida and now I live in northern Spain in the countryside. And I found my joy, I found my peace, I found the American dream right here. But without that experience working at Tesla, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to actually extend my voice. Working at Tesla, I was able to, because they don't pay you, you get stock. I was able to cash out my stock and buy this house here and make a life abroad once I was let go, once I was a part of the cuts. But um, that experience taught me a lot, and the point of my channel is to share a lot of the experiences that I've had in the tech industry, but also um, as a human in America, right? And in my experiences with working, I've worked in tech, I've worked in luxury hospitality, and I've worked with the airlines. So I've had this type of access to people and things that most people don't have access to. And so when I talk, I can talk about wealth inequality in a way that's a little bit unexpected. So you see your technology leaders who want to be seen as these like savants of sort. They want to be respected, they want to be praised. But from the inside, you can see how depraved everything is, how patched together the products are, how incomplete everything is, and how it's all done for show, but there's no substance. And working in luxury hospitality, specifically in VIP services, where I had access to royalty, I had access to political leaders and billionaires, and I could see the behaviors that were untoward. And sometimes I didn't understand, but now I can talk about that and look back. And as we all know, hindsight is 2020. So I can look back and see those things and see them from a different perspective. And then working at the airline. So before this call, me and Angela were talking a little bit about 9/11 because it's a special day for both of us. She has it from one point of view. My perspective is from being a flight attendant, working for United Airlines out of Boston and seeing a plane loaded with people that she knew on board on a trip that she had tried to pick up that day, the day before. I had come in from a trip from the West Coast and I had a few days off. So, as a flight attendant, when you're not on reserve, when you hold a line, when you know, okay, I know I have these days off, and when I do work, I know what flights I'm flying. When you're a line holder, you have access to pick up trips. And when I had come in from my previous trip, I said, let me go see if any trips came available. And there were 3 trips available. It was all the same trip. And it's a trip that I would have never held seniority for to bid for. It was going from Boston to Los Angeles, layover 24 hours, fly up to San Francisco, layover for 18 hours, and then San Francisco to Boston. It was the best of the best of the best trips. And I tried my damnedest to get that trip. but I was illegal. I had an 8 and 24, and I was illegal by 1 minute. And so at that time, I was living in DC, so I hopped on a plane and flew home. And the next day, I saw people that I knew lose their lives in the World Trade Center because they were on that plane. We had 3 reserve flight attendants, and the 4 flight attendants who had bid that trip, they were gone. So I have all these perspectives that I want to share with you. And today I really want to talk about empathy because we're all probably struggling with it with regards to what happened yesterday. Some people who generally have a lot of empathy for so many people seemingly don't have empathy for the events from yesterday, whereas there are some people who are complaining that others aren't having enough empathy. And I just want to make sure that we all know that empathy is a spectrum, and some days you have a lot of it, whereas other days you have a little bit less. And if you're looking at something where someone who would have possibly spat on your grave and you're not giving enough empathy for the loss of that person, I want you to know that it's okay. And actually, what I want to talk to you about is a study that came out recently. It's from Science Direct, the Journal of Research in Personality. It's actually called Malevolent versus Benevolent Dispositions and Conservative Political Ideology in the Trump Era. And what was really striking to me about it were the people with malevolent dispositions. These are people who have dispositions with um, Machiavellianism, they're narcissist, they're highly manipulative, they're more self-serving. These are the people who tend towards conservatism. So sometimes when we're having these conversations with different people, we may feel that we're having trouble connecting with them, that they're not having enough empathy. And it's because they don't have the empathy. And one of the most striking things with this study was that they see the emotions of the other person. They understand what's happening with the other person. They choose not to sympathize with them. They choose not to feel them. So I want to make sure all of us that we're in a good space with empathy, that no matter how you feel with the events that happened yesterday, whatever you feel is valid. I think I'm good for now, Angela. I'm going to start answering questions soon. Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah, yesterday was a set of events that people are probably having trouble with. Can you tell us a little bit about your time at Tesla and Red Skull, which Ed, could you explain that nickname, Red Skull?
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I got really emotional talking about empathy because I was struggling with it myself yesterday. So Red Skull, YouTube, there's an algorithm. So for my voice to get out, I have to be very, very strategic with how I say things. So there came a point when I realized saying the president's name was not helpful. So he became 47. Uh, Red Skull came about because the man we speak about, he had recently done the salute during the inauguration. So if we're trying to be Tony Stark, we're trying to be that superhero, let's do the opposite. So in the Marvel comics, who's the opposite of Tony Stark? We have Red Skull, and so it became his name. So I gave characters to a lot of people so that I don't have to say their names. So um, it's a way for me to try and gamify the algorithm, especially now since a lot of creators who are political on the left side of politics are getting suppressed. YouTube recently actually um, did an AI reset of everyone's accounts. So many people are not seeing their favorite creators because their accounts are restricted. If they don't have their excuse me, if they don't have their age listed on their account, they may be limited to 18 and under content in a sense. So content like mine, content like yours would be considered adult content, and you'll see fewer views because people's accounts are being restricted.
Okay. So here's what can we do? Is there something that we can do to not just motivate other people to take action, but to make it clear that they have to take action? Because the things that are going on, for some of us, they're super clear, and for some people, it's a little bit ambiguous what's going on.
So what I'm learning with this empathy study is that we have to learn how to talk to people in a way that they understand. So if you're talking with somebody who doesn't feel what's going on, so the people who don't get it, they're on the end of the empathy spectrum that may be a little bit less empathetic. So we want to talk to them in ways that they can understand. So instead of talking about, oh my goodness, these environmental issues, you want to frame it more like, well, don't you want to protect this park for you? Like, isn't this your favorite fishing hole? You want to frame it in a way that it affects them. And yes, it sounds selfish. Um, it sounds it sounds the opposite of empathetic, right? But even though it sounds that way, we have to be self-aware enough to speak to our audience in ways that they can understand. So when you're talking to a person, you're not going to talk to them in a way that feels good to you. You want them to feel good. You want them to have that understanding so that they can take action. So I think about the conservatives in my life, the people who are still in the US who think that nothing's happening. Just bring up something that they actually care about, that you know that they care about, that you understand whatever the change that's happening will affect them. And you make it personal to them so that they can take action. And that's the only way that I've found personally to actually motivate people. And yes, we can put things on social media, but it's really imperative that we connect with the people in our lives. And for those of us living abroad, yes, it feels so far away, but you're still connected to these people and you have a chance to make a small impact. And with them taking action, they can help the people around them to take action. And it becomes bigger and bigger. And all it takes is little steps from us. And I'm pretty sure everybody on this call feels the same way that I do, where you want to do so much and you feel so impotent. But these are the little things that we can do, just connecting to the people that we love, that we've left behind. And if they're not activated, just finding tiny ways to activate them, get in touch with them more frequently, and just talk about it and have them, kind of decompress on you, allow them to put that energy into you so that you can feed back into them ways that they can be effective. And the simplest ways that I've found that have been effective with the people in my life are just telling them to shop mindfully. Literally, the US has become a place where it's led by corporations. It has nothing to do with the people in office. It has everything to do with the people who run these corporations who pay for these people who are in office. So how do we affect these people who have so much money? Well, we keep the little bit of money that we have and use it wisely. So I know here in Spain, I can avoid buying certain products. I can look at what I'm buying and who I'm buying it from, and I can be mindful and shop and buy alternatives, shop locally, just doing those little bitty things that are already a part of your life. You're just adjusting them a little bit to make an impact.
So you've spent a lot of your life working with rich people.
Mm,
Um, how do you think that they view us regular people?
they don't. That's the
Really?
thing. Yeah. Specifically working in hospitality, when I was in VIP, so when I was in VIP services, I'd work the concierge desk sometimes. And the hotel I worked at, it was a members club as well as a hotel. And between the members and the high level guests, you saw how they interacted with each other versus how they interacted with staff and how they would interact with guests who happened to be at the hotel. You had your VIP guests and your members, and those were the important guests, and they interacted with each other very, they were a tight-knit group. They knew one another. I distinctly remember one guest who came. She said, I always love coming here. It's like winter camp for us because over the holiday season, they would come for weeks. They'd move in, they'd have cases. You know, those big Louis Vuitton trunks, they would come in with those. That's how they moved in. And it was it was a clubhouse for all these people and they enjoyed each other. And the staff, we were just there to make things happen for them. Other guests who just happened to get hotel rooms at the same time, they just happened to be there, but they were no ones. So do they think about us? No, they don't care one bit. And that's why it's so easy for them to ignore us. That's why it's so easy to take away so many things from so many people. How do you justify having billions of dollars and saying you people over there can't have health care because you're not going to work? But you can't work because you were in the military and you were injured or whatever your circumstance was. That's because we're nothing to them. And it's okay. The country's run by a bunch of people who people didn't like when they were growing up and were suffering the consequences of whatever happened to them as they were growing up. And I truly believe that as a country, we can get through this. We just need to get everyone to get in line and get active. And that's the hardest part.
Yeah, that is the hardest part. Just so everybody knows, there is another No Kings March on October 18th. So contact your local country committee or whatever groups are in your area and make sure you show up at this march. It's very important. Um, so you probably have seen that Tesla is no longer going to be having this autopilot anymore. Um, did people know when it was originally that it just didn't work right? Did people there know that?
From my perspective, autopilot. So I started at Tesla in 2016. Autopilot was more like traffic aware cruise control. And then at the end of that year, they rolled out Autopilot 2, and it started improving and becoming something else. And at the end of 20, I believe 2019, I started commuting in my Tesla, and I would use Autopilot every day. And my commute was 2.5 hours each way. And I promise you, it was an easy commute because of that autopilot. But the difference between cars back then and cars now, so the cars back then had LiDAR on them.
Mm,
So I believed in autopilot then because I had customers who would be in car accidents. They were driving, they weren't in autopilot. In Florida, certain times of the year, the sun gets really low and it's hard to see. And they would get in these horrible car accidents because of the sun. And autopilot saved the situation. The automatic braking would go in, they would try to take over, the automatic braking would take over again. But that only happened because the car had LiDAR sensors. But when Elon decided that LiDAR was too expensive and he wanted to remove it from every car moving forward. But not only did he remove it from every car moving forward, he made it inactive in any car that had it. That's when autopilot became dangerous, in my opinion, because now you're just waiting for cameras around your car to look. And just like I get blinded when that sun is low, so can the autopilot. Just like when it's hard to see in fog, so is the autopilot. Just like it's challenging to see in the rain, so is the autopilot. When you're depending on these cameras, I believe there's 12 cameras around the car, if I remember correctly. All it takes is morning dew to make the car blind. How do you know that your sensors on the side of the car are seeing things? Okay, I've wiped off my windshield wipers. I can see if my rear camera is working, but the rest of the cameras, I mean, now you have access to them, but before you didn't know if all the cameras were actually seeing things. And what if there's something around another car? How does your car know it? Because it doesn't have LiDAR pinging and finding out what's all around. So, yeah, autopilot's unsafe now because it's completely dependent on visual rather than using a technology that is proven helpful.
Wow, that's very interesting to know. I did not know they took the LiDAR out, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions in the chat box. This is from Elaine Thomas. She says, "How do we work positively on the inbox mailing threat? Are you aware of that, or do you know? Maybe Elaine, maybe write a little bit more, say a little bit more about that." I have a message here that says, "In light of what you've said about empathy, could you talk a little bit about the messaging that comes from the Democratic Party, from the center slash left news and from center slash left news sources? Even though I agree that Trump bashing messaging, I sometimes worry it's alienating people that I identify with what he says."
At some point, we have to realize that everything is a spectrum. Just like the empathy is a spectrum, our news sources are a spectrum, and we need to grow our democratic messaging to support that spectrum. So I think one of our biggest challenges is understanding that everyone's not going to agree on everything. If you look at the people on the right, they don't agree with everything, but they are damn well in lockstep. They work together and they make sure to have the messaging together. So you can believe in one thing and have someone else believe in something else. And guess what? In order to move people further left, you need those steps to get them there. So what I would like to see is different types of democratic messaging. You can have as far left as we can get, but we need to be able to pull people from the right to the center. Actually, the center is right now. We need to pull people from the center to the left, and we just need those steps and give them the little steps so that they can make that movement to the place that we need them to be. Because if we're looking for one type of voice, we're never going to pull people over to understand what's going on. So while Trump bashing, it's not interesting to me, while that FAFO content, it's not interesting to me, but it's interesting to other people. And we have to be mindful that not everything that appeals to one person appeals to another. And we have to make sure that we have something for everyone to be able to consume and to be able to pull people in so that we can all work together. And we have to decide that we can work together even if we don't agree wholeheartedly on everything, but we have this set of goals that we're working towards, and we commit to working towards them with each other.
Yeah. How do we deal with the threats, especially to Black women from the oligarchy?
I'm still trying to deal with myself. I'm just thinking about my time at Tesla. Um, I was out of the state of Florida, and when my time came to get let go from Tesla, we went from a region that was most of our store leaders were female, and we had a new regional manager who started pushing all the females out. And I truly attribute this to one of my bosses passing, and he would he had this ability to push back on Elon. He was the guy that his boss would call and say, "Can you talk to Elon? Because you're the only person who can actually calm him down and get him to understand reason." And once my boss passed, all of that disappeared. And it was immediate when all of the ladies started getting pushed out. So as a Black woman, of course, I was one of the first ones who was eliminated. Many of them were able to transition into other roles. I wasn't interested in them, so I waited for my time. But as a Black woman, looking at everything that is happening, during my time at Tesla, all of us, we the women, we worked together and we set up systems of support for each other. And I think that we need to make sure that we're in community with one another and make sure that we have systems of support so that if one falls, we can all lift each other up together. Um, because I know we're in this space, in this time where a lot of people are seeking independence, but now is the time that we lock hands and just make sure that we're there to support each other. And if you find that you're in a space where you're not sure who you can fall back on, you need to start setting up those systems right now and finding the people in your life or developing people in your life that you can fall back on, because no one can do these things alone. We all have to work together. And that's the biggest lesson I teach on my channel. We work together. Nothing is individual. This guy didn't get into office all by himself. He worked with a community of people. And the only way we can resist all of this is to work with each other.
See. Do you think empathy correlates to socioeconomic or political views? I have empathy for someone who is like me or thinks like me, but not for people who's different.
That's where that study failed. It didn't talk about economics. It didn't really talk about race, apart from the lack of empathy tended towards a specific type of male. Um, I think it does have a lot to do with background. Growing up in the South, I saw a lot of that. I truly saw a lot of it. And I think people grow up with it and it becomes a part of their lives. And we can choose to stay that way once we grow up. There's always a choice, but um, I choose empathy at all times. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. Yesterday, I struggled with empathy. But for the most part, I really care what happens to people, and you can make that choice too. Other people can make that choice. We just have to be self-aware enough to understand why we choose what we do.
Uh, do you think the protests in the US and abroad are beginning to make a difference?
I know I'm pretty confident that 47 is very upset by all the protests, especially since it has a certain demographic to it. He was expecting a protest that looked far different than it does. And I know that bothers him, and he's doing everything in his power to accelerate things and make the protest demographics change in a way so that he can take action on the streets. And don't get me wrong, he's doing things on the streets that he shouldn't be doing, but there are far worse things that he can do that he hasn't done yet. And I think the way that the protests are at the moment are bothering him because he expected protests. He just didn't expect the demographic in the protests that we're seeing.
Yes, so let's keep up the protest
Mm,
because we don't want to ever do anything that makes Donald Trump happy.
exactly.
Um, Never. Yeah, October 18th, No King's Day, the second No King's Day. I also just want to take a moment to invite everyone to our Speaking of Empathy and Community, to our September GBC Cafe. It's on September 28th at 8 a.m. Eastern Time and 4 p.m. Central European Time. It's a place where we gather on a monthly basis to talk, to have community, to talk about the issues and figure out things that we can do to try to survive this time and, you know, stay together as a community. Our next question is regarding ordinary people's economic power. Do you think a general strike is possible in the US and how effective would it be?
And that's where we all come in. That's why we have to talk to people who are checked out, people who don't think things are that bad, people who think that everyone's being alarmist and it'll all go back to what it was in 2 years when we have the next election. We need to talk to them and help them understand because they are suffering a little bit from lack of empathy, right? You can't check out if if you are strong with empathy. You have an awareness. When you have empathy, you're aware of what's going on. And for a general strike to be effective, we need more people. We need people to be confident in what they are doing, what the general strike is for. We're asking people to not buy things. We're asking certain people to stay home. We're asking people to do things that they're uncomfortable with because with a general strike, people will be afraid that they're going to lose their jobs. And without that community, right, we have to make sure that we have a system to support anyone who does happen to lose their job. We have to make sure that people are fed. So if you're someone who has means, please give to mutual aids, find ways so that you can support systems in the US so that once we have enough people to have a general strike, that they're supported. And I think that is the biggest hindrance with having a general strike is that a lot of people aren't supported. They don't know that they will be supported because we don't have that community and we have to build those systems. So it's our job to talk to the people that we know who are checked out to get them to understand what's at stake and why it's important that they do these things, that they join these communities, that they become a part of these mutual aid groups. And once we have this groundswell of people, we're able to do a general strike that's actually effective. And we have proof of the efficacy of not buying. I mean, Target alone is a huge deal. And then you have Starbucks, they're still struggling from strikes. There are so many ways that we've used our power as people to affect change but for some reason, we are so unsure in this moment, and we have to know, we have to find that confidence within us that we can do this, that we can make this change. And it feels so big as an individual, but when you're a part of a group of people and you work together, it's less daunting. Everybody puts a little bit of that weight on their shoulders, and then we all carry everything together.
What do you think about a social media strike, like a blackout? I think that would be easier for everybody
Mm.
because you don't have to quit your job or something to do, unless your job is social media, of course. But what do you think about that idea?
I know that we did it, what was it, 2020? We did the Black Squares, and I'm not sure of how effective it was. Now, what I have been doing personally, one little thing I've been doing, so I'll be on whatever social media app I am on because that's where I actually get my information from because the news is unreliable. Between that and European news, that's where I get my news. And once I get to a commercial, I close that app and then I go and open a different app. And that's a little thing that I've been doing. And I've actually noticed my feed has changed a lot. One, I'm getting fewer commercials. So the company is making less money off of me. And the only reason I'm hesitant about social media is because, like me, so many people get their information from social media. And I wonder where we could go. I would do a blackout definitely of Google, of Instagram, Facebook, of TikTok, but I would need to find another place to find information from because without it, I personally feel like I would lose my connection to the US apart from my friends and family that are there. Um, what do you think about that? Like finding, is there a different place that you go to apart from the big three to get information?
Well, I I do. I mean, I listen to look at European news,
Mm.
and I look at
Angela,
YouTube, of
you like
course.
Substack.
Yeah, I do. Have read a lot of Substack. Um, but I think, speaking about oligarchy, all of our tech bros, they think they've got us.
Hmm.
They think that they've got us, but they don't have to have us. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for some of the things that I do, I would let Facebook and Instagram go. I'm not, I look at TikTok every now and then, basically when I'm looking for something. Um, and it's a very pesty app. It constantly messages me and tells me good morning, it tells me good night. It's always trying to get me to interact with it, and I just don't care. I'll interact when I want to, but I just think it would really have a deep effect if we just for a few days, everybody just stay off the apps. And I mean, there's still other ways to get information. You don't have to look at these apps necessarily. We'd have to set up a lot of networks so that, or where we would,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I don't follow legacy media either. I mean, there's no point to it. Um, it just, I actually, I don't know how it's still existing. I don't know. I haven't lived in the United States for so long. I don't know if people are still watching this stuff, but when I see the clips on YouTube or on some other app, um, I think it it's like it's like it's like you'll see something, they'll talk about something, and they'll get this close to the truth, and then they'll veer away, as quickly as possible. So I don't know. I just think that we have to find some way to do this, to do, I think an internet strike or a social media strike would be easier than a general strike.
I
I
mean, you would hit all the people if, what are they? Okay, so it's Facebook, YouTube, X. I forgot about X. And
mm-hmm.
those are the big bros. So I saw somebody put in fan base. I haven't gotten on fan base. And then Blue Sky, I guess there's alternatives. We just have to decide where everyone goes, right?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
or go outside and talk to people. That's a thought. Don't it's just a thought. Don't necessarily you don't have to find a substitute. We could plan a lot of interactions with human beings that don't involve social media, and we can take all the pictures we want, and then when the strike is over, we can, if you just have to share them on social media, you don't have Signal, or you don't have some other method of sharing things, then yeah, you could do it that way. Okay, we're still waiting for our second speaker who has not arrived yet, but hopefully he will be here shortly. Are there more questions? Yeah, okay. We have more questions in the chat. Um, how does the oligarchic power specifically intersect with systemic racism and the Black communities worldwide?
Um, from what I see, they just don't like us. They, I think we're a nuisance, specifically Black Americans. And my background is a little bit different than many Black Americans. My mom, she's from Louisiana, but my dad, he's from Nigeria. And I have this unique experience growing up in the States, growing up in Louisiana specifically, going to private school and being told that I'm an African booty scratcher because my dad's Nigerian and I had an African last name. But being at that intersection of African American and African, I can see the two sides of the experience where as a Black person in the US, you feel the pressure from all over. It's not just you're feeling it from white people or other people of color. You're also seeing it from other Black people who are not of the African American nature. And then you also have this additional level of if you're a female, now you have that aspect falling on top of you. And then uh, you have this class system that you all fall within. And no matter how much effort you take, how much work you do, how many degrees you get, you are still that woman who has a bad attitude, right? Um, you have this certain tone about you. The way you dress, no matter what it is, it's not appropriate. I specifically remember a time when I was in hospitality. For most of my hospitality career, I had a very, very tiny afro. I cut it very short. And I wore it like that for about 4 years. And I decided I wanted to grow my hair out. And the easiest way for me to grow my hair out is to just, in that transition period, just get some braids and it'll grow out easily. And I was told that it wasn't appropriate and I had to take the braids out. So after getting my hair braided, I had to go home and unbraid my hair. So that was a 2-day experience, right? It was a full day to get my hair braided, and now I'm getting it unbraided. And that that space that we're in, um, we have a lot of experience, and we have, specifically as a group, we have a lot of empathy that comes with us. It's just natural within our community for us to behave in that nature, very empathetic, very caring. Even people who would probably spit on you in certain situations, you're taking care of them, you know. Um, and so you're in a space where you're expected to be quiet. You're expected to go and clean the floors. You're expected to forget about all of the education and experience that you've developed in your life and push it aside and be quiet because you are meant to be a shadow. You are not meant to be seen. And so when you think about the oligarchy, it's not a space meant for us. If you look at all the pictures of the people involved in the oligarchy, there's no one who looks like us there. And, we have our few people who have made it into the ranks of high wealth, and they're not there either. So keep that in mind and make sure that you have a safe space where you're connecting with people with good spirit and like minds who can keep you uplifted and positive, and make sure that when you're consuming all this information and all these dark things that are happening, that you have space for light. You always make sure that you have a safe space for you to keep your spirits high and keep your sanity. Because what we're going through now is a hard time. And without you making sure that you take care of you, you can't take care of what you need to take care of. So I know I didn't actually answer the question, but these are the ideas I have. I just want you to take care of you. I mean, frankly, that's what I want for everybody. Just, I want us to be able to just be people and live good lives. And, I look at these people who have control of the US right now, and the one guy who has the software company that has all of our information. He told us we should be upset that we would ever die, and he's working on how to live forever. That's what they're working on. They want to live forever, but they don't want to feed the people who are hungry. That's what we're working with. So when you have people like that, who he was also the man who wasn't sure if humankind should endure. Like he wants to integrate us with machines. There's videos out there, him saying it, the words come straight out of his mouth. These are the people that we're working with. So to fight that, we have to make sure that we're in a good space so that we can continue the fight, because it's going to take a long time. To get to the space that we're at right now, it felt like a blink of an eye, but it took so long to get here. I distinctly remember being 5 years old in the car with my mom and her being so upset finding out that Reagan got elected. This all began when I was in the car with my mother when I was 5. Well, it started before then, but it took a long time for us to get here. And it's going to take a long time for us to get out of it and to get to a space where people are happy. Not all of us are going to be here when we get to the other side, but as long as we all participate and do the things that we can, and I'm not asking people to do everything, I'm just asking you to do what you can. I can't be in the streets in the US right now protesting, but I made a YouTube channel as a protest. And what is the one thing that you can do to make that difference? I'm finding people all over the world and speaking truth to power. What can you do? Maybe it's just talking to the people in your life and helping them to understand what's going on so that they can talk to other people. Maybe it's you posting little information bits on whatever social media. Maybe it's you creating a network in a community that you used to live in, but only you know what you can do to make a difference. Even though it feels tiny, you're making a big impact.
Yes. Yes, everything that we do does make a difference. Um, all many of the protests that we've had this year have been in the news in the United States, and I've heard from people in the States say they were it made them feel good to see Americans outside of America protesting. So, whatever you can do, even if it's just, not everybody can protest, but you could do something. Maybe make a donation to an organization, or I don't know, help someone else who can protest. It's it's stay together, find your group and work with them to get things done. It's just step by step by step. We didn't, as Kina said, we didn't get here in one day, even though it feels like it, even though January 20th was like D-Day or something like that, it took a long time for us to get here. I have a question. What do you think of Indivisible? Do you think there's any one organization that can coordinate all the groups that are actively resisting? And is that necessary?
I've been on a few indivisible calls. They've been fun to watch, very informative, but there's not and there's not one for abroad. So I'm not sure how effective it would be for us who live abroad. I think spaces like this are more helpful. Um, Are they the one group? They've been around for a while. It is possible. I've seen them collaborating with other groups, and that's what really matters. As long as people can set aside their need for credit and they just work together to achieve this one goal, I think it could all work out. I don't think we need to focus on indivisible. I think you find a group that suits what you enjoy and join it. And do what you can for the group, and not everybody can be. So on the ground, these groups, they need different sets of skills to do different things. Now, what I do know with Indivisible is they train you on phone call campaigns. And if you wanted to do something, if there was something that you wanted to do that you can do from abroad, that's one thing that you can do. So if you're interested in Indivisible, by all means, go ahead and do it. Um, there's the People Sick Day. They're trying to come to gather people together so that they can call for a general strike. There's different groups out there. You just have to find one that suits you, that you want to join. And I think that's, in my mind, resistance communities are kind of like clubs, and you find one that suits your sensibilities and you become a part of it. Because when you find a space where people are like-minded and you enjoy being around them, what you're doing, even though it's hard, it doesn't feel as hard because the people you're around, you enjoy being around, and it becomes something that you look forward to rather than something that you have to do. So if you're not sure about Indivisible, and I don't know which way you go, if you're not sure about it, just look up resistance groups online and find a space that better suits you. With Indivisible, I believe you're supposed to be in the space that you're from. So I'm not sure if you're able to join a group where you used to live in the US. But there's different ways that you can give value to what's going on. You just have to seek it out.
Yeah, there is actually an Indivisible abroad now.
Okay.
And I will, when I send out the video, I'll send out a link to them. I don't have it handy right now, but I've been working with them, and yeah, they exist. They're doing stuff. It's very important. Um, Adrian, you wish to say something? You have your hand up.
Oh, I didn't really mean to have my hand up, but I would like to no, just what is it? Remind you to do what we always remind people to do about registering to vote in the upcoming elections.
Oh, yes, well, I can do that definitely again. It's seriously, everybody, these elections are very important. The New Jersey and Virginia are having state elections, plus there's also a House of Representatives race that the election is taking place on the 23rd, I believe, of this month. Everyone in Virginia can vote. Everyone, whether you're in the elections, same thing with New Jersey, you can vote in those elections. Please do request your absentee ballot and ask for it to come by email so you don't have any problems with the mail. And yeah, please go ahead and go to votefromabroad.org. We have one more question out there. We are waiting for our next speaker, Zachary. He is coming. He's in Boston right now, and he squeezed us into his schedule, and so he's finishing a speech somewhere. I can't remember what he said, and so he'll be here shortly. Okay, we have some more questions. To what extent does control of the media and culture reinforce oligarchic power, and how can we counteract this?
Control of the media is a big part of why we're here, right? They control the narrative, they control the information pretty much. And that's why we can't look at the news, right? Because they're under the control of this oligarchy. So, with that in mind, if we're going to be on social media, and many people are, the people who need to hear this message are on social media. I encourage people to try their hand at social media. I'm not asking you to be an influencer, but I'm asking you to take the information that you're receiving and turning it around. And we need to flood this system with information from a different voice. So you're taking news that you're learning, you're taking information that's happening, and you want to remember your audience when you're doing this. You want to talk to them in a way that they'll take it in. It's not, we're not offending people in the sense of you're reaching out to people who have less empathy than you. They're not understanding what's happening, right? So you want to target whatever message you're putting out with them in mind, because the people who understand the problem, they already know what's going on. They don't need to hear this. They don't need to hear what the problem is and what the solutions are. And I encourage every single one of us to try our hand at it. So what could that mean? For me, it meant starting a YouTube channel. For you, it could mean posting videos on Instagram or to TikTok. Or for someone else, it may be posting on Blue Sky and possibly the cesspool that we call X. Whatever suits your sensibilities, that's what you need to do. Just get that message out, but in a different way, in a way so that they can hear it and understand it. And what I did to start off on my YouTube channel, and it was hard. For myself, I did a 50 by 50 challenge. It was October last year I started the channel. I decided to make 50 videos by my 50th birthday. Did I achieve the challenge? No, I did 49, but damn it, I had over 50,000 subscribers by the time I was 50, so I think I did pretty okay. So
Very good.
look at, we need to, what do they call it? Flood the zone. We need to do that, but with a different voice.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kina. And as I said before, everybody go up on YouTube and like her, subscribe to her channel, and tell your friends to subscribe to her channel too. I'm going to put it back in the chat because it's a great channel and I look forward to these videos on a regular basis. We definitely appreciate your time and thank you so much. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. All right, our next speaker here is here. 1 second. Zachary James Miller is an American filmmaker, writer, and award-winning producer based in Paris. He founded 2 production companies and has created acclaimed films, documentaries, and TV series, including Fade to Black and Jazz Life. His upcoming projects include a book and a documentary on Richard Wright, as well as the new political nonfiction book titled 1,000 Days into Fascism. Beyond his creative work, Zachary is a longtime political commentator and leader in Democrats Abroad. He's also serving as the vice chair of the Global Black Caucus. Welcome, Zachary.
Hi, Angela. How are you? Hello, everyone.
Hello. So this book about fascism, this is the one that I'm
Yeah.
super interested in. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that or a lot about it?
Yeah. Well, I've changed the title because it became more urgent. I was going to look at the first 1,000 days into his administration, but it became clear that, what we were looking at to come has arrived. And so the title is now 300 Days into Fascism, and it'll come out in November. As we have approached this thing more quickly than even their best estimates had looked at. But yeah, I started thinking about this because I read Project 2025 and I saw the plan. And the problem was, for Trump was he didn't have a plan initially. His first go round as president, um, they weren't they weren't equipped with the knowledge of how to do this. Because of Russell Vought and people like him and this whole Project 2025 agenda, they've been given the blueprint. And if you look at the data of what's been happening, they follow the blueprint pretty well. They've got estimates are between 40 and 50% of what they want it done so far. And that's with the complicity of the Congress. Uh, both Senate and House Republicans are in line, and to a large degree with the Supreme Court. And so, never have we been in a situation like this. But I also like to say that this presents a wake-up call for a lot of people who didn't realize how quickly, how possible it is, that this country could become um, run by a fascist. Could never happen here. Well, it's happening here. And that's what the book is about. And I go into detail to explain what powers this president has taken, and what he's trying to do, because it was all written out for you before they began, But I also am looking into a lot of ways in which we can fight back. And I remember saying, a crisis is also an opportunity. So this crisis that we are seeing ourselves being involved in is also an opportunity for a generational change if we fight back effectively, and that's what I'm talking about in the book, and I'm giving a lot of details as to what we can do. Right now, I am in the States. I'll be returning to Paris on the 18th, but I've been here in the U.S. since August 31st. Right now, I'm not participating in the whole program because I just got through speaking here at Suffolk University. I'm still at Suffolk University. I'm in another room, but I just got through talking about my Richard Wright book and documentary, and basically, I'm seeing that they're trying to drive us back to the pre-50s, which, we've already been there, done that. And so I was just in DC. I saw the vehicles, I saw the trucks passing by, and I saw them, lined up at Union Station. But I also see a lot of DC residents fighting back. There's some brilliant protests and demonstrations going on in DC right now. I don't know how much of it we see, but the people are upset and they're moving, and you see free DC lawn yard signs all over in the area that I'm staying at in Capitol Hill. And you see a rising population of people who hadn't been involved in politics getting involved in politics. And that's a good thing. And that's some positive things we can look at.
So, why do you think that people didn't take Project 2025 seriously enough? It was so clear. Why do you think that people ignored it?
Well, see, that's the system we're in. People, I mean, I'm a news junkie. I read everything. I've always been like this. I don't know. It's just an affliction. I've been a news junkie since I was a child. Uh, but most people are not. Most people are not really involved in politics. And we have to fight so hard to, our careers, our work, our family. People don't have the, the time really. And Project 2025, although it was in plain sight and all written out for you, who has time to read all of that? I do because that's what I do, but most people don't. And so right now we're seeing the effects, and we're going to see more effects. And as we see those effects, people are waking up. They don't want to be under a police state. They don't want to have their rights taken away from them. They don't want to have their voting rights stripped, which we fought for so long, for so much blood was shed on getting people the right to vote, especially getting Black people the right to vote. And now to have by fiat, he's not even doing things by getting the Congress to okay them. He's just saying he's writing an order, and he's saying this will be done. I mean, the detail, the things that Trump is trying to take over, uh, and unfortunately, being let to take over by the Supreme Court in a lot of cases is astounding. I mean, executive orders have never had this much weight and power as they have now, and that's really a shame. But yeah, I don't blame people for not reacting to Project 2025 when it came out, because I know what kind of pressures we all are under with our lives and with the economy and with our family and with our everything. But now, okay, we're woke now. Everybody's waking up now. So, I'm happy about that, and we have ways that we can defeat this. But we have to, get organized. That's part of what I'm talking about. That's part of what, was said in the earlier hour.
Well, let's talk about some of the ways that we can defeat this. What do you think those ways are?
The most effective means of any kind of political organization is grassroots. I'm always in favor of people voting and getting out the vote and all of that. We have to continue doing that, but we can't wait till every 2 years. We've got to organize now. We've got to get in the street. We had a very successful. It's very successful everywhere, but in Paris we also had a No King's Day. We're having another one coming up again in October. Those kind of things, as far as people people power and getting on the street is important. It's always been important. But you can do so many things in little cells of 3 and 4 people working together. People have different skills, and lawyers need to be going together and in their off time fighting these things back legally. But social media influencers have a lot of weight, and that can be done with AI. There are so many tools that we can be using that we didn't have in the 60s. But there are so many tools that we can be using to get other people on board. And we only need a percentage. I'm sure that it's been talked about in an earlier hour, how much of a percentage of people, how much of a small percentage of people it takes to make a peaceful change happen in a country, and in this country. We can still do that as well. So I'm talking in the book about um, small cells of people doing things together, 4 or 5 people, people you can trust, people who you can work with, who have certain skills. If they don't have skills, the old saying, each one teach one. We can do that. And that's what we have to do. And we have to get the message out, and we have to actually get involved on a personal basis. But the fact is that when you're working with groups of people, you can make it a joyful event, to coin it, to go back to the term of working in joy. You can make it for individuals coming together to work politically together as a small team and do things. And that's the kind of thing that spurred the movements in the 60s, a lot of them. That even the Black Panthers were doing community-based grassroots organizing. And that's what we're needing to look at now. And there's lots of ways to do that, but we're talking about the fact that we're doing it in small cells as well as working with larger organizations like Indivisible. But the thing is, people need to just motivate themselves to be working together, and it can be done in the evenings over pizza or whatever. But educate yourselves and take action. Those are There's lots of ideas that we explore in the book, but basically it comes down to educating yourselves and taking action.
Hmm. What do you think the most shocking thing has been, in your opinion, since Trump became
Um,
president?
So many, Angela. I mean, it's hard to pick just one. Uh, the fact that they passed their bill, that one encompassing, ugly, horrible bill that immediately took away so many things that people don't even realize yet. But I mean, the fact that even the wasteful stuff, the fact that, foreign aid that was like food, uh, I hate waste. And the fact that the stuff was already on its way and was just cut and left to spoil. You know, the kind of food aid that was happening, the kind of cuts and SNAP that kids depend on, lunch programs, all these kind of things, the Medicare health care, all these things are being taken away with the signing of a pen. And it's so much. And you might not feel it now, but you will um, when it starts rolling out. And those kind of things, the fact that we have people who are depending on veterans and older people and children that are depending on things that they always got from the government that are they're no longer going to get them. And the fact that you have ICE budget tripling. It's odd now, but it's incredible to believe that the budget for ICE is actually larger than the budget for the US Marines. What kind of war is he expecting in the US to have that huge a budget? What kind of service can you enter where you get a $50,000 signing bonus with no skills and virtually no age limit? This is incredible. What are they planning? You know, you have to ask yourself those kind of things, and you have to look at where the money is going, who's it benefiting, who's being robbed, and who's getting all their tax breaks and their corporate revenues. Yeah.
So what do you think they have planned?
Um, I think they want a permanent regime. You know, I think that basically Trump would love to have what Putin has. You know, he admires Putin. He admires a lot of these dictators that basically are trying to be the governor of the regime for as long as they are alive, and maybe pass it down to someone. So I think he wants a permanent establishment of his regime, and I think that's what he would like. Um, and there are ways to enable that. I mean, certainly Putin has been in power for an awfully long time, and he is supposedly he's supposedly voted in, and we know that's all a sham. So why wouldn't Trump aspire to that? I think he does. I think it's clear that he does aspire to that, and uh, I think we have to counter that aggressively. People ask me what do I consider myself a liberal or a progressive, or what kind of Democrat am I? I tell everyone I'm an aggressive. I think we all have to be aggressive right now, and the fact whether you're a red dog Democrat or a progressive like I'm inclined to be, or a liberal or whatever, we all have to be aggressives now, because that's the state of where we are right now. We're in a fight. We're in a fight. I'm for me, I've always said I used to take karate, and I used to be in a lot of tournaments, and I used to be in like some full contact tournaments, a few of them. And you're never more alive when you're in a fight like that. You're never more alive when you're in a fight, and we're in the fight of our lives. So we should be really awake and alert, and learning and educating others and fighting back, because our democracy is at stake. I couldn't be more urgent about this. I couldn't express it more urgently to everyone that we are in the fight of our lives. If you want your children and grandchildren to grow up in a democracy, work at it. Work at it now.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about your book? Like,
Yeah, well, I go into detail on where the money's coming from and the plan, and how these things are kind of forming a perfect storm. You've got Trump, who is mostly the face. He somehow has engendered um, a following, a MAGA following, who probably all were indoctrinated to him through the television show. I mean, when they watched his show, which was on, I don't know how long, a dozen years, whatever, a lot of people like the guy. And for certain people, he has the charisma. Now, for me, of course, he doesn't. But I understand that people see him, who watched the show for a long time, saw him as this business genius, and they chose to admire him and chose to be attracted to him, such like Ronald Reagan. But Ronald Reagan, he was an actor, and he did have a certain charisma, for people that even didn't like his politics. But Trump found himself in this position to be this charismatic leader, and he had from his life history, he had great con man skills. He was a good con man, salesman, con man, whatever. He likes that. He's good at it. He became the face of it, but he's a moron. So he had to have some brains behind him. That didn't happen until Project 2025. And these people became uh, the plan. They became the blueprint. They became, you're the face, you do this. They didn't say it to him like that, but basically that's how it's structured. That's how it came about, was that there was a blueprint now for him to achieve what they wanted him to achieve. And he's been doing it. Now, on the other hand, we have the tech billionaires. Elon Musk, of course, is the most noticed one. But behind Elon Musk, there was Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel decided that he wanted to rule the world. And he also has the fantasy about living forever. So that's a whole other thing. But he's working on immortality, and he's working on government control by CEOs of techno industry. So he basically funded J.D. Lance's operation in the Senate. He funded all of J.D. Lance's life since college, basically. He was he pushed him for vice president after he pushed him for the Senate, and now he's sitting in the catbird seat with waiting on the decline and the eventual death or dispowerment of Trump. But the techno guys, the techno billionaires, Peter Thiel and his whole what they call PayPal mafia, are very powerful, and they have an agenda. And that agenda um, involves corporate running of the U.S., primarily techno corporate running of the U.S. That's what they think would be an ideal thing. And they have other people behind them that are the philosophers of such a movement. And so all of these things are gone into depth in the book about this triangle of power: techno billionaires, Trump as the face, and Project 2025 as the blueprint. So these things came together in this perfect storm, and they have seized control for the time being. And they want to seize control forevermore. And it's our job now to not allow them to do that, to resist. And we have a lot of history on how communities, how people can resist effectively. And I explore that in great detail in the book about how we can resist effectively. And as Kenya was saying, we got to bombard them with the same kind of tactics. We flood the zone, and we have to encourage our people to come together over at least this one thing about democracy. You may have your pet interest, I may be interested in global Black Caucus, or I may be interested in, somebody else is more focused on women's agendas. We're all focused on a whole bunch of things, but ultimately we have to come together to save democracy, and we have to accept, the people who are more conservative than us into this movement because at least we have this common interest of wanting to save democracy. So we have to accept people who we're not totally aligned with on every single thing. It doesn't matter. We all have to come together and save democracy. We have Republicans, some of whom are interesting. They've lost all their jobs because of, no other, world would I be aligned with Liz Cheney. But, the Cheneys, the Republicans, all these people who are in this fight against an autocratic government, against Trump, we have to work with them, to really do this very, very basic thing, which is to save democracy. That's our highest goal right now.
Hey,
Angela, I was going to hop in and ask Zachary, as a news junkie, as a lifelong admitted news junkie, where are you getting your news now? I don't know if you were here when we were talking about We don't trust mainstream media. What happened in mainstream media? Where do we get our news? Angela suggested a social media boycott. Kina reminded her a lot of people use social media to find news. Where are you getting your news these days? And would you support a boycott of social media?
Uh, see, by social media, I don't, it's everything is social media. I mean, I mean, like I watch a lot of like our friend who was just here. She's social media. I mean, we watch her YouTube show. So I don't want to boycott her. I don't get most of my news from social media. I get most of my news from sources that I trust. A lot of it is NBC and MSNBC, because also my son works for NBC. My son's one of the three producers of Meet the Press. And news outlets have to present both sides. Hopefully, they're good enough to strongly debate the wrong side on their lies when they have something to say. I was just, I was, I'm in Boston right now, discussing speaking here at Suffolk University, but I was in Washington D.C. Since I got back here on August 31st, and last Sunday, I am apparently for my son, it was bring dad to the studio day. So I came to the Meet the Press studio, as I have many times before, and I saw the show from the control room, and I met everybody before and after, and I met the guests and the panelists, and happened to be on the panel that day. Was well, the show consisted of uh, on video. Basically, the person I met that I want to talk to you about is Governor Wes Moore. Governor Wes Moore was one of the guests from Maryland. He's been talked about as to whether he will be a candidate for running for president in the next time. Uh, I was happy to talk to Wes Moore around the green room table as we were eating bagels, and I asked him to speak for Global Black Caucus, and he agreed. So we have
Thanks, Zach.
you're welcome. I'll send you some photos and information later. But I was talking with him and his chief of staff for the for communication, and she immediately sent me her email and said that they agreed, and so she immediately sent me her contact information so that we can do that. But on that show there was Wes Moore, and he was talking a lot about what he wants to do, and he asked me, what do Americans abroad, what are they feeling? And I told him, we're very concerned, but we like it when they push back, we like it when they fight back. And I'm sure he took note of that, and the fact that he was there, and Senator Booker wasn't there, but on he was in the show online. Now they had to have a Republican there as well, so they had Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was there. So all three of them were on the show, and there's a panel also in live. And I meet with him. I saw him. We exchanged hellos with Obama's former Homeland Security, Jay Johnson. So they were all there, and they all come on these shows every week, and you're getting the information from the horse's mouth, you know. So whether it's good or bad, whether it's Republican or Democrat, they're there. You can hear what they say. Sometimes, uh, just like in things when I was debating a lot on France 24, there are things I want to say that I don't have time to say, and there are things that when you're debating the opposite, when you're debating your Republican opposite, you don't always get to say what you want to say, or you don't always get to ask that question or pin them down in every case. But sometimes you do, you know. And so I watch these kind of shows because I want to know what they're thinking or what they're lying about as well. So, so I watch and I listen, and I'm happy when our guys get in there and are able to tell us what they think should happen and what they're going on. And I'm happy to hear what the opposition says as well, because we need to know what they're thinking, what they're planning, and we need to know the lies that they're saying. So yeah, I watch a lot of mainstream media, and I watch the shows where they're good and they are asking tough questions, and you know, trying to pin people down on things. So yeah, I do that, and I'm I'm not anti mainstream media, obviously for personal reasons, but I've never been anti mainstream media. I just take it as what it is. I hear what everybody has to say.
Glad to give you an opportunity to brag about your son. See how I queued
Yeah,
you up
I
perfectly.
always do.
But can you do me a favor before Angela takes over again? Name some of those that you trust. You mentioned MSNBC and Meet the Press. Can you name some others that are still mainstream that we can trust it, in your opinion?
Well, you know, I listen. Well, you know, there's also some people that have left the mainstream that are on their own YouTube channels. You know, so those are also interesting. Um, you know, I listen to a lot of Nicole Wallace. She has a show on MSNBC. A lot of MSNBC, but I mean, I listen to people who are um, on various channels. But I also listen to like people who have shows like Don Lemon. He has his own YouTube show. A bunch of people have their own YouTube show now that were previously in. Jim Acosta, you know, he's got his own YouTube show. He's no longer part of NBC or whatever channel he was with, but he has his YouTube show. So Jim Acosta has written some very interesting books, and he's now on a YouTube channel. So those are people I listen to, some of them, and
Because
some
I
of
was just going to moan about, some of my favorite ones were on public television or public,
yeah,
and
true.
so we're going to lose some of those voices. Thank you, Zach, and thanks for fitting us in your tight schedule. Don't leave, but I wanted to make sure I thank you for coming.
Okay, okay, great.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to your book, to reading your book. Um, 300 Days into Fascism, Trump, Musk, and Project 2025. It's out November 15th. Add it to your book clubs, everybody. It's definitely worth a look-see, a good read. Thank you so much, Zach. Thank you so much, Kina. Thank you so much, audience, for hanging in there with us. Um, we have a lot more things to come. Remember, everybody, to vote. That's really the most important part at this point. I mean, not, like we have to win. We have to turn Virginia back to a democratically run state. We need to keep New Jersey uh, a democratically run state. In Pennsylvania, there are judge seats that are open, and we need to make sure those are reasonable people. In Texas, I can't remember the exact district, but it's one of the congressmen died there. And we need to maintain that as long as we can as a Democratic seat because the redistricting doesn't kick in until 2027. And in Arizona, that was Raul Grijalva's seat. His daughter is running for his seat, and we need to hang on to that one too. And California, most importantly, we need to make sure that they can redistrict California so that all the seats are blue. So for sure, we need every seat we can get if we're going to try to hang on to our democracy. I know there was a lot of people in 2024 that didn't vote. We were probably about 10 to 20% less people voted in 2024 than they did in 2020. And we need everybody to vote. So it is all hands on deck. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Adrian. And we will keep on going and we will see you definitely in the future. Take care, everybody. Have a great evening or afternoon or morning.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.